Great, so today we're going to be talking about how to use the Glovebox, and before we start using the Glovebox we need to make sure that anything we put in there is as dry as it can be. So we're going to use a round bottom flask, and round bottom flasks, or all glassware, is very good at holding water, and so we want to dry that water off. So we're going to put it in the oven, put it somewhere appropriate. I'm going to put it inside my tray, like there. And we're going to leave this at 70 degrees overnight. That's ideal. If you're really desperate and you need to get something in quickly, then you can increase the temperature to much higher by turning the dial. So let's take it to 140 and leaving it for as long as possible and at least an hour. Hi there. So today we're going to do a little tutorial on how to use the Glovebox in the Macindo group. I have all the things that I'm going to take in with the Glovebox with me. I have a round bottom flask, a solid chemical, and a needle and a syringe because I need them for measuring out a solvent, and a super seal. Okay, great. So walking up to the Glovebox, and first we want to make sure that there is no one using any of the things that we want to use. So we're going to go into the small chamber first here. There's no one using the small chamber. That's great. That means we can use it. There's also nothing like an out of order in the box, which would suggest that maybe someone's doing some maintenance or there's a big problem, in which case we also don't want to use it then. So check to make sure no one's using something that you want to use. And then also it's probably good to just check over the panel as well, because it does have some indicators if something's wrong. So for example, we were on this screen and there was something red here, or there were some messages, and that might suggest we shouldn't be using it right now. But everything looks good, so we will use it as normal. Okay, great. So here we have the small antechamber. This is where we're going to take in our chemical. And so we can see that it's currently been left under vacuum. So first we're just going to add some nitrogen into here to release that vacuum. So if we come down here to this little knob, you can see that it has evacuate, closed, and refill, I think it says. Yep, refill with nitrogen. So we're going to refill it with nitrogen so that it's back under the same pressure as the outside. Great, and then we're going to set it to closed, and now we can go inside the antechamber. So you turn this little knob here, and then the whole thing slides anti-clockwise and you get to the end, and comes out like that. Try and leave it face up when you can, because it stops any debris getting into the O-ring or into the seal, which can make the seal less well next time. Okay, great, and we can pull out this metal tray here, and we can put in all our things. So the super seal and the round bottom flask, they're easy, they just go straight in. The solid, so currently in here we have air, and we don't want to take air into the Glovebox. So what we should do is crack the vial a little bit, just so that, well, not that much, just so that the air inside there will be sucked out and replaced with nitrogen, so we're not taking any air into the Glovebox. Similar thing for the needle and syringe. These are currently sealed. There's a load of air in there. We don't want to take that air in with us, so we're going to break these open so that they get evacuated and refilled with nitrogen. So we're not taking air in from those as well. So solids and non-volatile liquids are fairly easy. If you're taking in a volatile liquid, then you're going to have to take it in a Schlenk flask or some kind of flask that is sealed and has been purged with nitrogen or in the atmosphere. Because again, we don't want to take in a load of air with us or a load of water with us. Just a reminder that this round bottom flask has been in the oven. Okay, great. So we're going to put that in here, seal the door. So same process before, but reverse. Put it in and make sure that the slots align with the slots here. And turn it, and then you can turn the little knob like that. And now we're going to evacuate the chamber. So we've got a solid in there, and the lid's been cracked. So if we pull the vacuum really fast, it might blow off, and our solid might go everywhere. So when we evacuate, we're going to start by doing it nice and slowly. You can hear that sudden change when the pump starts to pull, and it's pulling the air out, and we can see that the pressure is starting to drop. So once it's dropping at a reasonably good speed, then we can slowly increase this until we take it all the way. Awesome. And for now, the gauge isn't probably going to change now. So we're evacuating, and we want to do that for some period of time and some cycling, and that's going to vary depending on what you're putting in there. Generally, we go for 2 cycles for 8 minutes or 3 cycles for 5 minutes. But if you're taking in something like some new gloves for the Glovebox, they hold water quite well, so you need to evacuate that for a lot longer. So it is very dependent. Ask someone in the group if you're unsure of how long you should be evacuating your items for. Okay, great. So now we're going to leave that for 8 minutes. Great. So we've been evacuating for 8 minutes, and now we're going to reflush the chamber with nitrogen and evacuate again. And that just increases the chance of removing any residual oxygen or water. Okay, so same as before, we're going to set it to closed, but then increase the nitrogen nice and slowly, because we don't want the air movement inside to blow anything over. And you can hear the nitrogen going in, the big click clunk of the valves. Great, and once it's at the top, we can just increase it all the way, and then we're going to evacuate it again. So again, nice and slow. Excellent. And as we're leaving our chemical in the small antechamber, we need to make sure that we put our label to say that we have our chemical in the small antechamber, so that anyone else who comes along knows that you're evacuating something. Okay, and now I finished doing all of those things. I don't need my lab coat anymore, so I'm going to take it off for the next step. We don't want to wear our lab coat for the glove box because these gloves we don't want to chemically contaminate, and our lab coat might be contaminated on the outside, so we go in barehanded, but we just wear our little gloves. Okay, fantastic. So we have left our chamber evacuating for a suitable amount of time. We've done enough cycles, and now we're going to take our samples and other paraphernalia into the glove box. So it's currently in evacuate mode, as you can see. We're going to do one more nitrogen flush, nice and slow, so we don't have anything tip over. Excellent, and we set it back to close, and now we're going to go into the glove box and retrieve our paraphernalia. I've got that word twice now. Okay, great. Let's go back to, you want this screen? Yes, so potentially we could have a solid that's annoying to deal with. There's a lot of air moving around the glove box, and that can mean that solid particles dance around a bit. So something that we can do is we can change the, that's the wrong screen. How are you going to edit that out? Can we start again? No, we have to edit that bit now. Okay, fine. It's this one. Okay, so let's pretend we're here. So if we've got a solid that's dancing around, and it's going to be really inconvenient because the air's moving around in the glove box, and that can make it difficult to keep a solid in place, then we can go to this part here where it says press 5.6 millibar. And if we click on that, then it takes us to this screen, and we can lower the working limit so that the air is moving around less. Go down to about a minimum of 1. You don't want to go any further than that because we want to make sure there's some pressure in there. And we must remember to increase it again at the end. That'll do. If we press end here, that will lock in. Okay, great. Now we're going to go and retrieve our things from the port. So now we're moving from the small chamber into the box. So we're going to move from the small chamber into the box. And we're going to get in the gloves. It's definitely something you just have to practice. I don't really know how to explain well how to get into gloves. There we go. Okay, and you can grab the pedals here. There's a nice little hook in the middle. You can pull it towards you. And then if you put your foot on the low pressure, you'll hear the pressure start to drop, and you can go in nice and slowly to start working the box. If, on the other hand, you went too quickly, then you hear this noise, and that means you've accidentally turned off the circulation purifier, which is bad because you want the atmosphere in there to keep circulating so that we're removing all the moisture and oxygen from the atmosphere. So if that happens, you need to come back out here. You can see that because that's happened, that we've got this little red feature here. You click on that guy, then you can turn the circulation back on. Awesome, now if it's functioning correctly again. So, I'm going to go back in nice and slowly. We don't want to do it again. Fantastic. Reach up nice and tall so that you get right to the end of the gloves. Now we're going to go into our chamber. Yep, we're definitely enclosed and we've been evacuating, so that's good. Okay, so you turn this little knob anti-clockwise. You can pull a tray out here to get all of your things. So we've got our solid particles there. I'll put it in the, we retrieve everything else. Is that everything? Yeah. Great. And make sure that you put the door back on, because if someone starts to use the chamber on the outside or there's a leak somewhere, then this will just protect the glove box even more. When you're putting the door back on, just a reminder that you want this slotted into the slots, and then it should turn a little bit like that, and then you can turn the knob to make sure it's nicely closed. Okay, great. Now we're in the glove box and we've got all the things we needed from the antechamber. So you want to try and work in this little metal tray here. That'll mean if you have any spillages, it's relatively easy to clear up. So that'll be great. So we have our round bottom here that we're going to dispense some of our solid into, and I'm going to take a spatula from my box. If you don't have a spatula already in the glove box, you're going to need to bring one in with you. That's okay. Oh, it's very bent, isn't it? Okay. So we have some solid here. We have a balance in front of us, so we need to turn the balance on. Give it a couple of seconds. We'll probably get to move it a little bit towards us as well. We'll probably get to move it a little bit towards us as well, because otherwise the door's not going to open. Okay, great. Looks like it's all stabilizing. We're going to be using a round bottom, so I'm going to take one of these rubber cones here, so that we have something nice to rest it on. Rubber's ideal because it doesn't absorb water or other gases as easily as a cork ring. So we prefer rubber. You do have to use a cork ring. You'll have to evacuate the chambers a lot longer to get it in. But anyway, we prefer rubber. It's going to be a good size. Yeah, sure, that'll do. Okay, great. So we're going to put our round bottom flask on the balance inside the cone to hold it upright. And once it's stabilized, you can tear the balance. That will reset it back to 0. And now we're going to weigh out some of our solid that we brought in with us. Before we do that, we need to put on some gloves, because potentially you could spill chemicals in the box and onto the glove box gloves, and that would be bad. So just like if you're using chemicals on the outside of a glove box, you put on some gloves. And because we were using black glove box gloves, it looks like Mickey Mouse. So it's easy to see what you're doing, which is good. Great, okay. Now we've protected the glove box gloves from any chemicals we're using. So, good, we've done that. So, now we will take some solid, and we're going to weigh it out. You don't want to weigh your solid out above the balance, because if you drop any, you're probably going to damage the balance, or at least make it hard to clean out. So it's better, if you can, to remove everything and weigh it out here. Try not to tip anything over. I hope this fits. If I can get enough out. Okay, try the other one. More empty it's got. Grand. Okay, I don't want very much of this reaction, so hopefully that'll be enough. Okay, great. Let's put it back on the balance. Wait for everything to stabilize. Remember to close the doors because the glove box has a lot of air moving around inside. Or not air, sorry. It has a lot of gases moving around inside. And so it will disturb the balance. 6.2 milligrams. I think that sounds pretty good to me. Okay, great. So that's our solid done. If you're going to measure out some liquids in the glove box, then you need to do something slightly different. So for most liquids in the glove box, because the nitrogen atmosphere is circulating inside, it's passing over the catalyst, which scrub out the oxygen in the water. But that also means that if you've got any volatile solvents in there, then they're also going to be passed over those catalysts, and that can damage them. And some of those solvents are really bad. So in general, if we're using solvents, we turn off that circulation purifier. So to do that, you just come back out the glove box. I'm just going to take one hand out because I should have left those gloves on the inside. Wait, Scott, we're going to have to do that again. I'm sorry. I left the gloves on the inside. Oh, Matthias is definitely better first time round, wasn't he? Great. Okay. So I was saying some rubbish out of the glove box. So we're going to have to turn the circulation purifier off because we don't want our solvents evaporating. So let me take these gloves off because we don't want to take those off with us. I don't think I spilled anything on there, so I'm just going to save that for a second. Okay. We're going to need to take one arm out, so that's handy. So I'm taking my circulation purifier off just whilst I measure out some solvents. Put my gloves back on in case we spill any of the solvent onto my gloves, which should be bad for the glove box gloves. Okay, we're going to use trifluorotoluenes in a bottle here, very handy. So this is kind of just similar to what we would do on the outside, syringe, needle, and all of that. But the key thing here is that you have turned the circulation purifier off because we don't want to damage those catalysts, which will reduce the lifespan of the box. I'm getting about 0.3 milliliters. That's about right. Excellent. And now anything that is currently holding solvent needs to be sealed, because otherwise when we turn our circulation purifier back on, which we're going to do soon, so if we can do this, make it look professional, which we're going to do soon, we don't want any solvent evaporating. So we'll seal that. We will seal our bottle of solvent. And we will also, shouldn't resheath the needle, but it'll protect me. Okay, and I've done all my chemistry, so I can take my white gloves off. I'm going to throw those away in a moment. And now I'm going to turn the circulation purifier back on. Everything's gone green again. Good job. Okay. You definitely did a better job of that. Come on. Okay, great. So we got our stuff, and we're now ready to take it out. But let's assume that I made some kind of mistake, and I got some rubbish there. I also have some waste here. I have a syringe and a needle. I have some gloves that I don't want anymore. But let's say disaster happens, and I manage to spill some solid on the balance. I want to spill it on the balance itself, because I don't want to damage it any more than I have to. But I will put some casually over here. Did I get some out? Yes, I did. Great. Okay, so I've made some terrible error, and I've accidentally spilt some solid onto the balance. So now I need to go about cleaning it off. There's a very handy little brush here for the balance itself. So you can clean up here. You can also clean the pan like that, but we know I haven't spilled anything there. But I want to clean off the solid to the side. And there's also this very nice pink dustpan and brush here, which we can use to scrape it straight into. Did we get any in? I think so. Great, okay. I've cleaned the balance. You also might end up making a mistake somewhere else and having some rubbish around the bottom of the glove box. We don't want that either. So we can, again, use this pink brush and just sweep up anything we don't want. I'm not going to clean the whole box right now. I'm just going to try and find any particular rubbish. You can see some there. Grand. Okay, and you also might want to clean out the tray if you made a mistake there. But I didn't, so we're all good. Okay, great. So now we want to take our stuff back out of our glove box and all the other stuff that we don't need. So the only things you should be leaving in the glove box are things that you're leaving for long-term storage, like chemicals, if they're going to stay in here, or things in your own boxes. We don't want just rubbish left around the glove box. It's being used by everyone, and we don't need a load of rubbish in there that no one else is going to use. So for example, I'm going to make sure I take out these gloves because no one else wants those. I also use this, so I'm going to put that back in its place because, again, we don't want a load of things just lying around. And now we're going to take stuff back into the antechamber. So no one else has used the antechamber since, so I can just go back in there, do a reversal of the process before, where we unscrew the knob and pull the door out. And I'm going to very neatly balance my reaction vessel against the edge so it doesn't fall over. Put in all the things that I no longer need. Syringes, gloves, anything else. And as for that dustpan and brush, which is filled with a load of rubbish, we can just tip that into this tray, and we will get that out on the outside. Cool. Let's put that back in there. And before I leave the glove box, I'm just going to have one last check that I haven't left anything out for anyone else that they don't want. Oh, I think that's quite a good job. Okay, great. So now I'm going to come out. Again, same as before, go nice and slowly. That makes sure that the glove is always at an appropriate pressure. And then a good tip is when you're coming out like that, when you get to the end, just hold your fingers in and just do a quick, like that, pull them out very quickly just at the end, and then you get very nice, easy gloves to get into next time. I'm now going to re-raise the glove box pressure because we want to leave it always between 5 and 10, and that makes sure that it's well above atmospheric pressure. And then we're not going to get any air coming in or water coming in that we don't want to. Very slow, isn't it? .3, sounds good to me. And when you press end again, it will rise back up to that pressure. Okay, and finally we have to get our stuff out of the glove box. It's still under closed, and this time we're going from an inert atmosphere to a not inert atmosphere, so we don't have to do any of the cycling that we had to do previously. So I'm just going to unscrew this door, pull out the tray, and rescue all of my things. Everything will be disposed of or used appropriately. So for now, I'm just going to very neatly tip it out onto the floor. Do that in real life. And I can put the tray back in. Try and leave the port open as little as possible, because again, the more that it's shut, the more well protected it is against any air or water leaking into the box. So I made sure that's properly shut. Now I'm going to evacuate it one more time. And if I was going to go in there properly again, then I would do the whole cycling. But in this case, I'm just going to stop using it. So I'm going to let it get down to a reasonably low pressure, set it to neutral, and I have now finished using the glove box for the day. Turn the light off, put your little indicator of where you are back into the done area, and that's it. You're done. Awesome. Thanks so much.